Saturday's result finished 1-1 against the Premier League champions. In my view, we fought like gladiators, but I want to ask you all, guys, do we have our intensity back? Let's find out here on Toon Tactics TV.
Brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Schär
Evening all. And guys, I hope you're all having a great week, a great start to the Monday. Whether you're at work, whether you're still at work doing a shift, where maybe you've just come from work, maybe you're about to go to work, maybe you're not working at all, maybe you're just vacuum cleaning, maybe you're just doing something around the house, maybe you're doing nothing, maybe you have stopped everything that you are doing to tune in to Toon Tactics TV. You are welcome. I'm hoping that you're having a blessed day. And as you probably can hear from my voice, and it's not just because we finished 1-1 against the Premier League champions, but because we got to enjoy life. We've got to enjoy life for everything that it brings to us. I hope, as you guys are tuning on Toon Tactics TV, that we can continue with giving you another great evening as we talk about all things Newcastle, as we review the game against Man City and everything about it, as well as do another preview, part two for the Wimbledon game. Now, guys, do let me know. As you guys can see, I'm using my mic today. I don't usually use the mic, but I want to be able to improve the sound quality for all of you. So do let me know, has the sound quality improved? Do you like the sound quality? I hope it's okay. And if you're saying, Toon, you need to get better sound quality, you need to get a better mic than this, do let me know. I'm very open to it, because look, I listen to some of my favorite streams, some of my favorite shows when I'm, whether I'm working, whether I'm cleaning around the house, when I'm doing anything around. Sound quality and everything is important. It's important for me to be able to give you not only content that you all enjoy, that you all like to hear, like to listen to, like to watch, hopefully, but also the sound quality and everything else that is there. So do let me know in the comments. Does the sound better? Also, do let me know where you guys are listening from. I'm more than curious, more than interested to know where everyone is listening from, and also how you are doing, how you are feeling. So I'm asking for a lot of things. How's the sound quality? Where are you coming from? And how are you feeling? So do let me know. Do let me know in the comments. So Newcastle won, Man City won. 12:30 kickoff that happened, obviously, this Saturday gone. What is you guys' thoughts about it? In order to kind of break down this game and start from I'm gonna first talk about. I was in two minds. I wanted to read some stats, but I also wanted to go back to what I thought the game would be, and essentially what we needed to do, and essentially what happened in it. So I was going to bring up the stats first and talk about all good things. But let me first kind of recap what we talked about in the previous game preview. So let me put this up instead. I had something else up instead, but as I'm talking to you guys, my mind is like, you know what? Let's start back to go forward. Let me take this part off. Stop this screen and put this screen up. And from what you guys might remember from the previous game preview was I was, we were really kind of hammering on about intensity. Now everyone talks about intensity, but what is it exactly? What does it actually mean to have intensity? We talked about, ground duels, tackling, attempted ground duels, winning your tackles, dribbles, recovery challenges, interceptions, even even though like it's not a primary indicator, but at least an indicator of intensity, yellow cards, of which we had none, especially in the first half against Fulham. That was the total opposite of intensity. So, in order for us, when we was talking about the Man City game initially, we was talking about how in order to gain anything from this game, Mr. Howe was gonna have to bring the intensity back. So obviously, I thought, as you guys can see, the tactical board that we had up last time, I thought Isak was going to play. I thought some of you didn't. Some of you already knew that. You know what? Nah, that injury is too much. I thought that Mr. Howe was calling a double bluff, and in my mind, I thought Isak would play, but he didn't. Instead, Gordon played. But this is what the pre-game preview was, and I'm going to go forward to explain how the story kind of changed instead. So in my mind, I thought Gvardiola would attack the game by having Doku and Savinho right here on the wings. You see the football here? And so by doing that, by having such wingers, really direct wingers who are literally touchline, they've got the chalk on their boots. That's what Doku and Savinho bring. I thought that they would spread the pitch a lot more. They would stretch the play and cause our wing backs and our centre backs and everything kind of to spread out. And what that would enable them to do is, because they like to play this, that would enable their midfield to push forward. And that's how they'll gain that territorial advantage. And not only that, obviously, they would have that territorial advantage in terms of the, kind of pushing forward in the midfield, with Haaland obviously keeping the line. And I thought, the way we're playing, we're going to have to keep at least two defenders on Haaland, because essentially what I thought would happen is City want to create a situation where they can create a 1v1 between Haaland and Kelly. For instance, I thought Kelly would play a centre-back because I thought he had the athleticism to play, and rather than Burn, because Burn didn't have the greatest game against Fulham, but he played against Man City and had a fantastic game. And credit to Burn for doing that, for raising up his level, but also credit to Howe for sticking with his man. So I thought, obviously, as I said, Man City are going to be stretching the game with Doku and Savinho on the wings. It will bring forward their centre midfield as well, allowing them a lot more space and allowing them to again create the channels behind our midfield where they can get the ball onto Haaland and create these kind of 1v1 situations of Shaw and or Kelly and or Burn, of which unfortunately there was ever going to be one winner. So I thought that's what would happen. And in order for Newcastle to combat that, they would have to essentially, Joe Linton would have, and one of the things that what's the key factor, we're going to talk about Mr. Gvardiol from Man City, the tale of Gvardiol and Mr. Trippier, two tales there. And obviously Gvardiol is the goal scorer in the game against us, and he's my new favourite defender in the Premier League. I call him a defender, but he's more like an attacking midfielder with the way Guardiola uses him and the way that he is employed in the game. So I thought we talked about the John Stones role. The John Stones role, which Man City like to do, is essentially, it looks like on paper they've got a four-man defense, but instead what happens is, and in this game I thought it was going to be Rico Lewis, uses John Stones, who drops into the midfield beside Kovacic, for instance, and creates that box type of midfield, of which it allows them to outnumber the midfield a lot more. So you get this situation where you get Gordon and Isak unsure on who to close down. And obviously there's always a spare man, whether it's Akanji, whether it's Lewis in behind. And the idea being that they can slip the ball through onto a Lewis or a Kovacic or whoever the spare man is. If Tonali and Joelinton aren't, Bruno will be trying to mark Gundogan, and Tonali be trying to mark Kovacic, and Barnes would be on here on Silva, and Joelinton will be trying to mark Lewis, or whoever coming in from the defence, Kanji and others. The idea being there would always be a spare man in midfield. And Lewis, creating in that John Stones role will be creating that spare man, and through that spare man, either passing to Gundogan or going directly onto Haaland or onto the wingers, be passing into the channels, and that's the kind of situation that will always be creating in order to be able to have that dominance in territorial dominance in the game, because Newcastle will be so scared, especially the defense, which I thought would be of having that 1v1 situation with Haaland. However, Mr. Gvardiola did not choose to play Doku. He did not choose to play Doku and or Mr. Savinho. Instead, he chose to play Sofa Scores and Fotman was man of the match, Mr. Jack Grealish. Now, another Mr. Grealish was getting booed left, right, and centre by the home fans, as he should be. That's usually a sign of a very good player. And Mr. Grealish had a very, very good game. Mr. Trippier had a very good game against him too. But so Grealish and Gvardiol. So let me put this. Let me make sure that you guys can see what I see. Are you guys still seeing the old screen, or are you seeing the new screen that I'm on now? Yeah, you're seeing the new screen. So let me zoom in a little bit here. Let me see how you guys can see it. So Mr. Gvardiola, instead of playing Doku and Savinho like I thought he would, and this is essentially, when you go into the average player positions, this is essentially a little bit. This is kind of capturing how we had it and how they had it, and you can see that the midfield was packed, and that's because instead of choosing Doku and Savinho as his wingers to stretch the play, Mr. Gvardiola chose Jack Grealish and Bernardo Silva. And obviously, what he did instead was try to create an overload within the center of the midfield. And the man that was key to that overload was Mr. Gvardiol himself. It was Gvardiol who was doing that John Stones role. The John Stones role where you think he's playing in a four-man midfield, but no. He's playing very much so in the opposition half. He almost became a second striker, attacking midfielder. And I know people call it moment of magic. Is it sustainable? Man City. This is how Man City play. Let me double down on this a little bit more. Let me go to SofaScore, back to SofaScore, and share my screen with you again, and show you the heat map for Gvardiol. Gvardiol, who we said is on paper. This is Josko Gvardiol. Oh, it's a bit too low there. Let me get that there. Let me see if I can. Gvardiol, who, remember, on paper and even on this, look at his heat map, guys. And remember that the play is going from right to left. So yes, the hottest part of the pitch is at centre back, and that's because of our press. And we're going to go into that at the moment. And some of you might be thinking, Philip, we won the game. Like, let's talk about Newcastle. But I feel like I have to talk about Gvardiol. I have to talk about how Man City set up in order to show you just how well tactically Mr. Howe did, and also how our Newcastle played. So you can see from this, Gvardiol was pressing up very, very high, creating a situation where, let me put it back onto the tactical board. He was playing that John Stones role. Let me make sure you guys can see that. I'm still a bit, here we go. So Gvardiol, here we go. Gvardiol is often coming up here, pressing up high. Often very much next to Haaland. We know that eventually he became the goal scorer as well, and you can see, we'll see why. And you'll have the situation where Diaz, Akanji, Kyle Walker are all kind of shoving over, and even though the play here is right in the center, they're really trying to attack that left hand on their left hand side, our right hand side, where Trippier and Murphy were. So that was their key battle. And because obviously they didn't have a Savinho where Silva is still in the 20, they were focusing most of the attack on that left-hand side. It was a very, very key battle. And now we talk about Newcastle United. We did amazingly well. And this is where my man of the match, Mr. Trippier. I know that people talk about Lewis Hall, Joe Linton was very close, Gordon was very close. For me, Trippier was my man of the match. Newcastle set up where they pressed high. And even Gvardiola talked about this. They pressed high. Our centre backs in Dan Burn and Shaw made sure they pressed high too. The only way to be able to hold back Man City and for us to have an attacking threat was for our centre backs to push up high, which allowed us. Sometimes it'll be Shaw against Gvadiol. Sometimes it'll be Trippier against Gvadiol. Shaw will drop back to defend Grealish. Tonali will then have the license to push up against Kovacic. Murphy will push up against Akanji, and he'll also be there to kind of make the runs. Gordon, and we'll talk about Gordon. Gordon's attempted and one ground duels were absolutely sky high. Gordon had a fantastic game, and we're going to get onto him in a moment. Gordon was in charge of the press up front. And Bruno, again, fantastic game. He was my second man of the match. Would press up against Gundogan. Harvey Barnes was up against Lewis, or sometimes Joe Linton. When we really, really pressed, Joe Linton was up against Lewis, allowing Barnes to have that to push up further, in which case Kyle Walker had to look after Barnes. And this is key. I don't know if any of you guys can remember a time when Kyle Walker was able to do any overlapping runs when Silva or anybody else had the ball. I personally don't remember. And I think the key to this was the fact that Joe Linton was able to push up high on the likes of Lewis, and then Barnes was able to push up high against Harvey Barnes, which left Lewis Hall in 1v1 situations with Bernardo Silva, who isn't necessarily the quickest, but is a highly good technician. And Lewis Hall had a fantastic game against Bernardo Silva, especially in the 1v1 situations. And this left Dan Burn in 1v1 situations of Haaland, in which he did really, really, really well. But as Howe even himself said it, this is a very high risk tactic. If one person isn't close to their man, isn't touch tight, isn't switched on, this whole thing falls apart. If Joe Linton misses the run of Rico Lewis can turn around and do a straight through ball in that big gap to where Dan Burn is in an unfavorable situation where he's 1v1 with Haaland. That only happened once, maybe twice in the second half, where we were very lucky that the ball was actually going in this direction rather than that direction. Newcastle did absolutely fantastically well. Now, I know we went a goal down, and I'm going to talk about it. But first, I'm going to talk about, like I said, the tactics. And we pressed incredibly high. We did really, really well in terms of that. There was a lot of tactical change. And I know Ryan was now watching it saying, and if you look at the average age of both teams, there's about 28 plus for both teams. And we made Manchester City's midfield look their age. Gundogan, Kovacic, Bernardo Silva were not equipped to deal with the athleticism that Joe Linton, Tonali, and Bruno were bringing. Now, these guys are high technicians, very good on the ball. And this is partly the reason why I think why Gvardiola chose not to play Savino and to play Doku, because he didn't want to stretch the play. Because the worry is that if he stretched the play, going back to this again, if he stretches the play here, say for instance the ball breaks to Lewis, the play is so stretched, and his worry is by this time he doesn't know if Isak is fit. Say Isak is fit, Gordon and others, Bruno, are now left in these 1v1 situations of Akanji, Diaz and Gvardiol. And he'll remember from last year where Newcastle nearly won the game 2-1 when Gordon and Isak scored, when Newcastle, the ball did break for Newcastle, Bruno did those, whoops, even dropping mics, did those one touch passes into Gordon, into Isak, and Newcastle were 2-1 up. And had it not been for De Bruyne coming off the bench and giving a world-class final 20 minutes performance, Man City would have lost that game. So instead of stretching the play, he wants to concentrate on the strengths of his team, which is their technical ability and being able to take the ball in those congested spaces. And so much of this game, as you guys can see from this, much of the game was concentrated in the middle of that midfield, where it was very, very tight. Tonali versus Kovacic, Bruno versus Gundogan, Joe Linton against Rico Lewis, and even pushing up, allowing Harvey Barnes to go up against Kyle Walker, leaving Lewis Hall in 1v1 situations versus Silva. Now Gvardial was making these runs, and this is where the goal comes, and we're gonna show the highlight of this goal as well. Gvardiol was pushing up. Shaw would have to take positions. Trippier would have to defend. But on the opposite end, we weren't just defending. Trippier was pushing up right high. Sometimes Shaw would make these long direct balls, forcing Gvardiol back. Sometimes forcing either Gvardiol back or Kanji to come back in order to defend it. Jacob would also be pushing up. Gvardiol has to push back. And we've seen those situations where, for instance, we were getting corners from these situations where obviously Akanji's blocking off crosses. Murphy gave a few crosses that weren't met by headers, unfortunately. But it was really, really an intense tactical battle. But the main fear which we had in terms of going into this game was Man City were not able to create the situations where Haaland was 1v1 with Dan Burn or Shaw. And it's because Shaw and Dan Burn were pushing up, and because we were really, really pressing up against Man City. It was the only way we could do it. The only way we could do it. And you guys would have seen that clip, that 30-second clip where you even had Dan Burn or Roy up on the other side of the pitch, pressing Kyle Walker, pressing the other guys here. That's how we really took it there. And it goes back to, and I'm going to show this the highlight of Gvardiol's goal before kind of showing what we did. But it goes back to I wanted to show you guys from the press conference that Howe did pre-game, where the media guys are talking tactics of Howe, and Howe was saying to them, listen, the game isn't what you're seeing in terms of 4-3-3 versus 4-4-2 or 4-4-2 versus 3-5-2. It's not like that anymore. He was saying it's more like style of play. Can you do what you're trying to do? What's the other position? What are you trying? Are you able to put your will on the other team? It was the third part he mentioned, and I have to look for it. And what it made me think of is that the game as we know it, people are thinking of it as systems. Yes, there are systems, but it's more, especially if you saw it in this game, it's so much more than that. It's like when you've got Gvadiol joining as second striker against Erling Haaland, whether you're playing 4-4-2, 3-5-2, it doesn't matter anymore. You have to build a situation in the game where you can now deal with that. You have to adapt to that. When Dan Burn is pressing Kyle Walker in the penalty box at Man City's end, you have to create a situation to deal with that. When Trippier is going from right back to right wing forward, that's no longer a 4-4-2, 3-5-2 situation. The game is totally changed. And how through his tactics was able to change the way the team played, and real credit to the team that they put that together, especially after what I saw in that Fulham game. The team not only changed their intensity, ground duels, tackles, attempted ground duels, aerial duels, recoveries, and all those type of things that add to it, that where you can see are indicators of a team's intensity, but there was a lot of tactical know-how. And there are examples that, I won't be able to tell, but City are still an incredible, incredible team. And they were still able to create space because they're absolute artists at this time. They get so much discredit from I feel sometimes from some rival fans where they call it robot football and stuff like that. But if you're watching the game, if you've got kind of some sort of love like for the game and seeing the stuff like that, it's is big. I'm gonna say it becomes art. What they're doing is becomes art. It's not mechanic. It's not machinery. It's not robotic. It's becoming art. And so I guess when I'm preparing these shows and stuff like that, maybe that's what I'm beginning to see. So look, this is the Gvardiol goal. Gvardiol, who obviously is, if on paper is um is left back for Man City. But if you look at his heat map, he's almost like second striker, an 8, all those things on top for Man City. So I'm just trying to load it up on my screen here. Here we go. And I'll get it to the timer. And I'll show you Gvardiol's goal. And like I said, Gvardiol was doing that John Stones role. He was in that John Stones role, creating the extra man in midfield. And there was a key battle between him, Trippier, Shaw, and Grealish. Grealish was obviously their man of the match. Grealish is another man who gets a lot of stick from rival fans. But again, I think he's absolutely magnificent. And Trippier did a fantastic job together with Jacob Murphy of not only defending against those guys, but creating attacking threats. And let me just make sure I can see it on here. All right. Here we go. So let me just get that here. Let me just get that here on the screen here. And we will go through it together. Gvardiol in that John Stones role. Let me get this up on my screen. Let's take this off and show this and stop the screen, then share this instead. So I have to talk myself through it. Like, I'm not quite as adept. As some folks that are doing it, but I'll get there. One day you'll see me like doing some Sky News type of stuff, like kind of touchscreen stuff and or whatnot. But for the moment, this is what you're gonna get. Right, let me see if I can get this to work. So, all right, so this is it, I think. Is it this screen? No, it's not this screen. Just give me one moment, folks. And Gvardiol, again, I have a newfound appreciation for how Man City are playing. I have a new appreciation for what Pep is trying to do. Whether they'll be Premier League champions, you can't doubt them. You cannot doubt them. You cannot doubt them. That's for sure. So let me see. Where are you? Ah, here we go. So this is the Man City goal. This is for Mr. Gvardiol playing in the... Let me make sure you guys can see it on your screens and we're going to talk through it. But is it trying to mess me around? Let me make sure I got it up on the screen here. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can see that, but it's looking all blankety blank right now. Okay, now it's better. So right now it's on the right hand side with Kyle Walker. I don't think they ever intend to attack that style, and you can see why. Bernardo Silva doesn't have the pace to deal with Lewis Hall, and neither Joe Linton. He's not Savino. I think if they have Savino, you see him trying to push Lewis Hall and Joe Linton to the byline, and then you see the likes of Gundogan, who's here, and Rico Lewis trying to fill in those gaps. But they don't have that. So they have to switch the play. And you can see the ball now to Kovacic, but they've slowed it down now. And this is part of the advantage for Newcastle, that Man City aren't necessarily moving the ball the quickest. He moves it across to Diaz. And this is where Diaz now quickens the pace just like that. First touch. Oh, no. Okay, I thought it was going to be first touch. No, he slows it down. He's a bit too slow, but fine. And this is key now. Now, some people think that Grealish's first touch isn't the greatest, but I think it was Joe Cole in his commentary that said he believes that Grealish intentionally touched the ball in this way to make Trippier, who's been this is now 34 minutes, who's not I'm gonna say Trippier pocketed him, but he hadn't had the better of Trippier to this point. It's still very, very tight. But he did this bad touch on purpose in order to entice Trippier to jump in on this. Had his touch been better, Grealish's touch been better, Trippier would not have jumped in on this, because Trippier just wants to create an attacking situation now. Obviously, you can see Murphy here. Who's the man that he's following? Is Gvardiol. Gvardiol is supposed to be left back, right? He's supposed to, here we go. This is the bad touch. Now, Trippier thinking, this looks like a 50-50. If you're Trippier, and I know that I find it hard to criticize Trippier for this, because if he gets this, Newcastle can break. Even to at one point, it looks like, if you can see where Jacob Murphy is, he's thinking, right, he might get this. He doesn't. He thought, do you see that? It's not because Jacob Murphy is not watching Gvardiol. He thinks Trippier's going to get it. He thinks Trippier's going to get it and they can break on Man City, but he doesn't, and really shows absolute skill here in order to get past Trippier. Now, he's looking up, and obviously now it's Jacob Murphy's back on his bike. Gvadiol is driving into that position. Rico Lewis included, Gundogan, Haaland, and you see obviously Mr. Bernardo Silva on the other end. They've broken free. Now, early pass from Jack Grealish there, and that's where the credit is here. Some people will be tempted to take on their man. Some people will be tempted to go back on their feet. But it's a great ball, and this is an incredible touch from Gvadiol. He's like 6'2", 6'3". I think he used to be a gymnast or something. But his balance, his first touch is impeccable. He takes it on. Shah can't do anything about it. Burn is running across. He's trying to get to him. And in trying to get to him, look at the balance Gvardiol shows. This guy that's playing left back. Oh, shoot. He's playing left back. He's playing left back. He cuts in from his left foot. Man City fans have to tell me, is he left foot or right foot? At this stage, I can't tell. He cuts in, and this is a brilliant finish. Tonali isn't able to stop him, and Burn isn't able to stop him. Those guys are not able to stop him. It took a moment. I say a moment of magic. It doesn't mean that it's not. It's not a great. Like it's almost by accident. It was just great football. And again, the story of Gvardiol. If Gvardiol, people are saying, I understand the criticisms from Man City that people are saying, if you stop Haaland, you stop Man City. But that's not how Man City. It is and it isn't. We've just saw the heat map for Gvardiol. He's playing that John Stones role, add an extra man in midfield. It's intentional. He's almost, like I said, he's right beside Haaland. He's almost playing a second striker. And it goes back to what Eddie Howe was saying. He's not looking at football as 4-4-2 versus 4-4-2 or 4-4-2 versus 4-3-3, 4-3-3 versus 3-5-2. I'm almost tempted to say total football, but we're not quite yet there. But I think some teams are a lot closer to that. But when you've got a left back in Gvardiol scoring that type of goal where he's breaking into the box, and he did it more than once. He did a lot better in terms of guarding against him, but this is every sense is intentional. So I think rival fans are under a false illusion if they think that if you stop Man City, you necessarily stop. If you stop Haaland, you necessarily stop Man City. Now, you do a lot better, but they do have other options. But it was absolutely brilliant in terms of that goal and in terms of how they scored it. It was very, very tight up to that point, and it was tight afterwards. Now, before we get into the second half, I'm going to show some statistics first. I'm going to for that first half before we get to the second half, and this is where my point of pride for Newcastle United Credit goes to Eddie Howe and everybody else goes to. But let me quickly go to the comment. Davey, Eddie, good to see you. So excellent summing up, Philip. Detailed analysis. Really appreciate you, Davey. Hope you're having a good evening, sir. Hope you're having a great, great evening. And really appreciate that comment. I'm really, really encouraged by that. Right. Let me go to the statistics for the first half into the second half. We know that it was very, very tight. So let me get this on because this is where I feel like Eddie Howe and the team get extra credit and extra extra credit and extra praise from myself, and I think they ought to get extra credit from fans. So let me share this. Still on. Let me make sure that you guys can see that. Can you guys see that? Yeah. So this is still the Gvardiol stuff. Gvardiol, my newfound centre back, and this goes back to, I'm going to go on a tangent a little bit. Why Eddie Howe might want a Gahey or a man of that profile. Now I don't know Gahey can do what Gvardiol does to that extent, but I think if you guys were here in the last show, we're talking about the type of profile, the defender that we're going, but it's especially where the game is going. You need the defenders that can do this stuff now. You need defenders that can do this stuff now, because the game isn't, like I said, isn't just 4-4-2 versus 4, like left back stays a left back. You've just seen the left back crashing into the opposition box, and it wasn't by accident, it's by design. We were talking about pre-game where I thought John Stones, we knew that John Stones wasn't going to play. I thought Rico Lewis was going to do it instead. I didn't think Kyle Walker was going to play, but Kyle Walker did play. Rico Lewis actually joined him, was in the midfield anyway, and it was Gvardiol who was joining in that play as well. So anyway, so this is why I think Howe is so big on Gahey and a defender of that profile. So let me go to the statistics, and you saw SoFA score. Some people rate it, some people don't rate it. I'm kind of here for the numbers, really. I do the same, and I'm going to look for FOTMob for other stats as well. Or is it? Do I want to go to FOTMob? I wanted to go for. I think it was FOTMob. I wanted to. Yes, it was FOTMob. I wanted to get a general stats before I go to the individual player stats and kind of let you guys know why I've given Kieran Trippier my man of the match. Let me make sure that you guys can see it first. I'm a bit worried. Okay, here we go. Right. So first half, and this is all the statistics, but look, this is first half. We had 41% of the possession. Expected goals between us and Man City was fairly even. And this is even though Man City scored, which lets you know how tight this game was, especially in that first half. We've shown that the majority of the game was in that midfield. And it took a lot of intensity and a lot of games. Now, I know that Man City had the better on total shots on target, only just, and big chances created again, only just. And obviously, we expected them to have most of the passing and stuff like that. We had more of the corners, obviously. And again, they had a little bit more of the shots on target, shots off target, but only just by 2, by 1. It was a very, 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 very close game. And obviously, again, we expected them to have more of the passes. We had more of the accurate long balls. Why am I saying all of this? There was a part in that I wanted to show. We had 2 yellow cards in the first half. For all those that are watching me, we had 2 yellow cards, which was an indicator of our intensity. We're going to the duels here. And this is going to be interesting because you're thinking, but Philip, you're talking about how we increased our intensity. Man City won 21 of their duels, we won 16. We're still up on that. And the ground duels, they won 19 of those, while we won 9. We won more of the aerial duels. How was it the game was so balanced in that direction? I think partly because Man City kept a lot of the ball and they were able to close down the space in different areas. But this is where the credit goes to Newcastle and to Eddie Howe. And I'm going to show you why. Because everything changes in the second half. And Newcastle, after showing a real good intensity, they still had, just because their ground duels won and ground duels attempted and tackles and all of that wasn't as high as Man City, it didn't mean that they didn't up their levels since the Fulham game. Because we all know if the Newcastle that played Fulham turned up against Man City, it's lights out. We're talking cricket scores. But Man City were just doing that a little bit better. They had the edge, I think, as well, just a little bit. But we showed some really good endeavour. But this is where I give Eddie Howe, and this is where I give Newcastle United, um, all the players, all the players. I'm sure we can all debate about who was man of the match. For me, it was Kieran Trippier. Some are saying Lewis Hall. Some are saying Joe Linton. Some are saying Anthony Gordon. And that already kind of lets you know that this was a good game from the team all round. Second half kicks in. Our possession decreases, and that's partly because we go a lot more direct. But there's something else that increases dramatically: our expected goals. It's almost twice that of. In fact, it is twice. It is twice of Man City's. We're creating the better opportunities. Might not have the same frequency, but we're creating the better opportunities. They have just one more shot on target than us, and a couple more shots. But we created the two bigger chances. We have the better accurate. We have obviously not the better, but we have an increase in accurate balls, passes. But what happens is by going more direct, going directly to our midfield, our expected chances creation goes up. You know what else goes up? Our tackles. Our tackles again go up just a little bit more. Our interceptions go up. Our blocks go up. Our clearances. And some would say, well, that's because Man City attacked more. True, but that's because we're hitting the ball a lot more directly. Either way, our intensity goes up. And look at the duels. Our duels significantly upped from what 60. I can't remember what it was in the previous half to 30. Our ground duels won only by one, but one number, but it was at least 10 to 15 more than the second half. Our aerial duels continue to go up. Our successful dribbles, you would have seen that incredible dribble from Jacob Murphy, all go up. So our intensity ratchets up even further. Our accurate long balls, and this is where it became very, very, very dangerous. Our accurate long balls made it harder for Man City to have that territorial advantage over us, and we hit them again and again. Their yellow cards Man City's yellow cards went from 0 to 4 in the second half because they had to foul us. They had to had to have a lot more technical fouls. We obviously got the penalty as well, and that's because our intensity went up that next gear as well. I don't know if anybody looked at the stats before. When have Man City went from 0 yellow cards in the first half to 4 yellow cards in the second half? It lets you know that what we were doing really, really worked. And Newcastle became a lot more threatening. Our intensity went up even further, and it's a fantastic example. Not only our intensity went up, but our threat level in terms of our attacks became even better. Before I show you, it will show you how the penalty came about as an example of how our attack improved. But I'm going to show you an attack we did about 5 minutes earlier, 5 minutes prior to the penalty shot, 5 to 10 minutes prior to the penalty shot, to the penalty situation with Gordon and Edison, and it was a penalty. I don't know what rivals are saying about. I've seen some people saying it's not a penalty. It was a penalty. It's a Stonewall penalty. We actually gave a warning shot to Man City about how we were playing, and I'm loving what we did because our midfield line was a little bit more staggered, which I'll show you anyway. This is what we should have done against Fulham, really. I'll show in terms of our play. So let me take this off and let me bring up the screen again. Let me share with you guys this earlier situation of our attack. Let me remove. Oh no, take this off. I'll put it back on. Remove. Stop screen. Let me share this again. So this is the moment I want to show 5 minutes before our goal. Before our penalty shout. Where did I put it? Okay, yeah, here we go. So let me find it on here. It was a pattern of play, but I also want to show you guys our player positioning, how our midfield connected to our attack, which we didn't do against Fulham. And I keep on going back to the Fulham game because like I said in the thumbnail for that, and I think it was in my short video, that game hurt me. But this was an improvement, and I'm hoping when they say that this is the bar now, I'm hoping that this will now set. It will be the bar, because we weren't just running around, we weren't just kicking and just running. We had a tactical thing. So let me share. Can you guys see this? Let me make sure you guys can see this. Can you guys see my screen? Let me make sure you guys can see my screen. Yes, you guys can see my screen. And like I said, please do let me know in the comments, Davey Eddie, if you're still there. How is my sound? How is my mic? Is the sound quality good for you guys? Because if it's not, I'm going to get a better mic anyway, but I want to make sure that for now, this is okay for you guys. If it's not, I will change it and I will improve it. All right, so let me get this up. So this is us firing off a warning, a little bit of our pattern of play. Let me just make sure you guys can see this. So you guys can see it. Let me put it back a little bit too much. This is just a pattern of play. Now, admittedly, we've got a free kick here. But I just want to talk about how it came about. And you can see how we kind of the pattern of this attack, because you're going to see something similar, which led to the penalty. From the top of the screen, you see Shah's got the ball here, but ahead of him you see Tonali, you see Bruno, and down here you see Lewis Hall. It's almost like a diagonal like this. And you kind of see it, and you see it in this average position of play. If you look on SofaScore, if you look on FootMob, if you look on player positions, you see the position of our players like this. We're talking about the connection from the defense to the attack, and obviously they're in the channels here in between the Man City players. What I like about this is that also before with the players, what I like about this is Lewis Hall, between Lewis Hall and you would have seen that picture of Bruno in the changing rooms pointing at Lewis Hall. And I believe that Bruno highly rates Lewis Hall, and I can see why. There's something else I'll show in the stats as well, but I explained this. Tonali, Bruno, and Lewis Hall are, some of our most technically, and including Shah in this, some of our most technical players. And what you have in here is some of our most technical players in the pockets here, in between this Man City press. Remember, they're surrounded by Gvardiol, Haaland, Bernardo Silva. I think that's Kovacic pushing up. That's Jack Grealish. So if you lose the ball here, it could be lights out. But this is what I'm saying. Bravery on the ball, attacking intent. And you're going to see, you're thinking, what were you on about here? So let me just play this. And we're also keeping in mind how we connect from defense to the midfield to the attack. So Shah's about to take the ball. Man City are doing a good job in terms of blocking the channels here. So he can't go directly to Tonali. He can't go directly to Bruno, who are both scanning their surroundings. So what does he do? He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go long. He doesn't want to leave the ball straight away, because if he goes long and the ball comes back, they've got 6 Man City players in the Newcastle half. It's going to create a terrible situation. So we have to build up from the back. He goes to Burn. Burn does really well to turn as quickly as he can and gets it off to Lewis Hall. And this is why you're going to see from Lewis Hall what he does in the moment. Why Lewis Hall was so highly rated. And you're going to see quality, and you're going to think, how is it? Now you see Tonali and Bruno running into the direction of Lewis Hall. They're still in that kind of diagonal line. They're trying to connect. Remember, the whole idea is to connect to the attack. You can't see it in the screen. Lewis Hall is about to receive the ball. He's got an option if he wants to play it safe, pass it back to Pope, go to the sides or whatnot. He doesn't do that. And you can see also the bodies of the Man City players. They're all facing him. Lewis Hall receives the ball, one touch. And with that one touch, look at Bernardo's body. His body is still that way. It's caught of him off guard. It's caught Haaland off guard. It's caught Rico Lewis. So Rico Lewis is thinking that the ball's going to come here to who's that? Barnes on the side. It doesn't. It goes to Bruno, and it gives Bruno that half a second to within that pocket of the Man City players to turn, and he does a beautiful turn. He's so good at this. Turn, Tonali's on his way. You can see right on the far screen here, I think it's Trippier. Trippier is on his bike. You see then Jacob Murphy here. You see Joe Linton here. And now the gaps are everywhere to see. Diaz has to push up. Others have to push up. It's now already a dangerous situation. Bruno, being so technically good, is able to, he sees it's Rico Lewis trying to close him down and said, I'll take on Rico Lewis. He does so. And you can see now, obviously, they've kept that diagonal shape. They're about to connect. Jacob Murphy has dropped in now. Jacob, and you can see into the play, right at the top of the screen, Gordon next to Akanji. Jacob Murphy drops in. Now, from that position, Bruno, because of that one-time pass from Lewis Hall, this situation is now turned into from a defense to an attack, connecting the defense to the midfield to the attack very, very quickly. Now, I'm talking about this, but in the game, this takes less than 5 seconds. Bruno turns around, Tonali's on his bike. There's no one closing him down. It's an easy pass to make now. Straight to Tonali, because Tonali thinks ahead. He's already about to pass it. Now, they have already done this in training. Gordon this time is going up against he's now created that space. And this is where Gvardiol again is my favorite defender. Gvardiol was here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. Gvardiol is here. He can see the danger. There's a space in between him and Akanji. And Gordon, he knows that Gordon wants to get into that space. And he reads the play. But just before he gets to him, he goes from Tonali, who again, incredible first touch. Look at that. Look at that beautiful ball. He could have passed it to Jacob Murphy. Even if he did pass it to Jacob Murphy could have turned around, passed it to Trippier, or he could have passed it to Joe Linton, but he wants to go for that. He went for the cutthroat ball. If it paid off, it would have been exceptional. But Gvardiol is onto it, and he stops the play. Now you might be thinking, Philip, why did you go to this length to explain, an attack that was stopped? But we're going to go forward to the penalty shout. And we didn't see this play. We didn't see this play against Fulham, by the way. And this is through the heart, through the center, through the middle of Man City. If Newcastle can do this to Man City, they can do it to anybody. Now, I'm going to fast forward this. Just remember this play. Remember this play. Remember this play for the penalty shout. For the penalty, essentially. That happens literally about 8 minutes later. I just wanted to show you this because I thought this was really good play from Newcastle. Let me fast forward it now to the penalty situation and keep this play in mind. Again, the team, Lewis Hall, Tonali, all the guys did brilliantly here. Where was this? It was at 57 minutes. Let me get this up. Newcastle, intentional, one-touch football. It was fantastic to see. Brilliant to see. Now, we're getting there now. That's the penalty. Just a little bit fast forward. All right. Remember the play that we just saw earlier? And it's through the middle. Here we go. Again, a little bit higher up the field. And let me just see. Have I gone too far back? I'll just go back there and play. I'll go back to Joe Linton there. Again, Newcastle go through the middle. So Newcastle get the throw on. I think it's Trippier. This time of year, here we go. Tonali. Eddie Howe. watching on, seeing, are they going to follow my play? Are they going to be doing what I'm asking them to do? Right? He wants them to be more risky. Now, this is Joe Linton receiving the ball now. Bruno, look how high up, by the way, Burn is. And look where the Man City defenders up. They're in their own half. This is again really good. Look how high up Lewis Hall is, right next to Joe Linton, providing that option. So Joe Linton's got two really good technical players next to him in Lewis Hall and Bruno. Now Bernardo Silva is coming in from behind because he wants to either stop Joe Linton from passing whoever's behind him or to Lewis Hall. Rico Lewis is also trying to block off the channels, and Bruno is obviously there being available to him. Haaland is trying to block off Burn from getting it over to Bruno. Joe Linton receives the ball. He looks up. Bruno now comes in between Rico Lewis and Gundogan. Again, really, really good movement from the midfield. If you guys remember from the Fulham game, how often were Joe Linton and Bruno literally standing face to face looking at each other? If you're just face to face looking at each other, how are you going to get the ball up front? But look where Bruno is. Look how high, by the way, is Tonali. Tonali is high up, pressing against who? Mr. Gvardiol, Mr. Second Striker Gvardiol, because now Gvardiol can't go up because Tonali is there. If Gvardiol can go up, he can go up here, but then now Man City now there's an extra man over Man City, so he has to defend. Joe Linton gets it over to Bruno in between the players. Look at that beautiful turn again from Bruno. What a fantastic! This was my back to goal. He receives the ball so well. Because he receives the ball so well, it doesn't give Rico Lewis and Gundogan enough time to be able to react. He turns, and by the way, before he does this, I missed out another man. His movement is absolutely exceptional. By the way, look where Gordon is. I don't know if you guys can see my arrow. Gordon is just hiding behind here Akanji and Kovacic. You think he's getting marked off. And he's thinking, I'm going to stay from... Tonali's keeping Gvardiol busy. Gvardiol, who at the last time, 8 minutes ago, stopped the last attack from Newcastle. Now there's space again because Diaz is watching Joe Linton. But Gordon is looking at the ball and he's seeing Bruno. Can Bruno get the ball? That's what Gordon is looking for. He's behind Akanji. Can Bruno get the ball? Can Bruno get the ball? Can Bruno get the ball? Yes, he can get the ball. And he's going to turn. And this sets off Gordon. Just look at Gordon's movement. He's watching it. Predator, and he's off. His body language, everything. He's just kept himself on side. Akanji kind of knows he's behind him. He tries to play him offside. It doesn't work. Diaz is a little bit too slow. Kovacic doesn't know what's going on. And there's that gap in between. And Bruno does a fantastic through ball. He's off. You're not going to catch Gordon here. Fantastic movement. Again, right through the middle. You remember the first play. They went right through the middle. Gvardiol isn't there because he's busy marking Tonali. He's been the extra man. Gordon, through excellent movement, is now off. They've gone through about four Man City midfielders. And obviously the rest, as you say, is history. And this is a penalty, which obviously Gordon himself scores. So Newcastle didn't only just show attack intensity in their ground duels won, intensity in their tackling, all that good stuff. Newcastle showed incredible attacking prowess and also intent. I showed you an example of 8 minutes earlier where again they played it through the centre, but Gvardiol was there to clear it off. This time round, Gvardiol was busy marking Tonali, and that movement from defence, from the midfield to the attack was absolutely exceptional. And so long as Newcastle keep on doing that, we're going to score goals, are going to be intense. Man City are quite fortunate that Isak wasn't playing. Because if Isak was playing, I think the scoreline may have been a little bit different. Now, before I go into the AFC Wimbledon game, we'll do a quick pre-game preview of that. I'll go to the comments. Adeyeri Mr. Consistent Adieri Kangumba, I hope you are well, sir. You still want Amanda Stavely and Mira to buy Newcastle United? They look like they're buying Tottenham, my friend. So they're definitely not coming back to Newcastle. Yes, and hi, Philip Howard. Very well, sir. VAR referees should go to the screen monitor and give Newcastle Anthony Gordon and Joe Linton the penalty. Guys, tell me, do you guys think it's a good point there, Dier? Really good point there. Guys, tell me, do you think that was a foul on Joe Linton? Do you guys think that was a foul on Joe Linton? I'm still 50-50 on that. I'll admit to you guys. I don't know. I'm wondering if the referee has it in his mind that if I give Newcastle 2 penalties, I'm going to get into trouble here. He doesn't give it. I wonder if that's on his mind. But look, I'm not God. I can't read a man's heart. Maybe he really didn't believe that it was a penalty. But you guys tell me. You guys let me know in the chat. Do you guys think it was a penalty? Now, that was the Man City game. I wanted to show the final stats for it as well, in terms of why I chose Kieran Trippier, but also how everybody else did, which I thought was absolutely fantastic display from Newcastle United. And we'll do a quick preview of the AFC Wimbledon game. So, and I wanted to show something that was really, really, again, we showed the stats. Newcastle actually stepped up another gear in the second half in terms of ground duels, passing, expected goals. Newcastle took it another level, and that is credit to the team, credit to Eddie Howe for doing that. So I wanted to show a couple stats here. Going back to the duels, you know how big I am on the duels. Duels and duels won, but okay. Let me make sure that you guys can see this. Yes, you guys can see it. Again, talking about that intensity. Bruno Gomes, 18 duel attempts, 9-1, 50%. 18 duel attempts. He was fighting his socks off. Joe Linton, fighting. Him and Joe Linton, again, almost equal to it. Kieran Trippier, right back Kieran Trippier, who was joined in the midfield again, in amongst the all. 18 duels, 12 duels attempted, 7-1. He was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Anthony Gordon, after what we saw against Fulham, Anthony Gordon, 12 attempts, 7-1, and that's from him running at people, hurrying in the Man City. If you don't have these attempts, you're not going to be able to do anything against Man City. Dan Burn, 9-5. 9. And people will say, how did the defenders? This is the whole point. How did the defenders have less attempts and less ground use won than the midfield and the attackers? It's because the midfield and the attackers have to work extra hard to get anything from Man City. If your centre backs are working hard, it means your midfield and your attack is dissolved and they can't defend against Man City, in which case you probably lost the game. You have to be able to play against Man City that way. Dan Burn, 9. Sandro Tonali, fantastic game from him as well. Jacob Murphy, Shaw, obviously. So these are the guys that did really well in their ground duels. And like I said, for me, Kieran Trippier was certainly man of the match for the first half. Joe Linton probably the second half, but all in all, I give it to Trippier. And I went on to the other one was, well, passing was exceptional as well. There was something else in the duels I wanted to show. Or was that it? I think that was it from the duels. But there was something in the passing again which edged it for me in terms of Kieran Trippier. But I wanted to show this, and this is important. We talked about the 2 last examples of our technical players being on the ball. In order for Newcastle to be successful, is getting our more technical players on the ball. And these are the players that had the most touches. Bruno Gomes, Kieran Trippier, Fabian Schär, Lewis Hall, and Joe Linton. Not as technical as the 4 above him, but he's there. He's taking responsibility. You need these guys on the ball. I don't know where Tonali was, because he should be up there. He had about 30 touches. I wonder why that is. I think he stopped the game out, but he got taken off at 70 minutes. That's going to get higher. And the more Tonali's fitness gets better, the more touches he gets on the ball. But Bruno, captain. Kieran Trippier, vice captain. Fabian Schär, stalwart. Lewis Hall, young and up and coming. This is why people are calling for Lewis Hall to have man of the match. And it's undoubted. Absolutely fabulous from all of them. And I think amongst them, Kieran Trippier, was it Kieran Trippier had the highest accuracy, or it was Joe Linton? Absolutely phenomenal. Kieran Trippier, also crosses and everything else. I think that's what edged it for me, as well as long ball accuracy from Kieran Trippier. 4 out of 5 long balls that were accurate. Bruno Gomes, 5 out of 7. Lewis Hall, 3 out of 7. Fabian Shaw, 6 out of 15. And that's where it turned up. That's where we Newcastle edged, put up another gear in that second half. Our technical players getting on the ball and passing it on to our runners, like Anthony Gordon, like Jacob Murphy, like Harvey Barnes and others. You saw a little bit less of Harvey Barnes, but you can't expect that against too much against Carl Walker. We kind of really went on a particular side. We went through the middle. It was not only a fantastic in intensity, ground duels, defensive actions, all type of things, but we played the game. We played the game really well. I know that we had less possession, and long balls were there. But you guys saw the 2 examples I gave you that led to the game. We passed through the middle of Man City, not around, not a hopeful ball over the top. We went through the middle with great passing intent. From our play. So I thought it was absolutely phenomenal from our team. And I just wanted to share that before I went on to the Wimbledon game. But guys, what are your thoughts on the game? What's your thoughts on the game? What's your thoughts? First of all, again, what's your thoughts on the mic? How is the sound quality? How is it coming through for you guys? I hope it's good. Like I said, I'm gonna be investing in some new sound as well. But for now, I hope this sound is very good for you. So look, like I said, I've given, for me, Kieran Trippier was man of the match, but I thought we played absolutely exceptional against Man City. I like the fact that we took it up another gear in the second half, and we had even the better expected chances. We won the more ground duels. We were really going at them. We showed some really good passing play as well. It was really, I think I forgot who the gentleman was on Twitter, said that pride restored, and it certainly was pride restored for Newcastle United coming from this game. So AFC Wimbledon. This is going to be fairly. I did a preview on the game a little bit more, but obviously things changed a little bit because AFC Wimbledon haven't played for about 8, 9 days, 10 days since the flooding, and I'm really, really sorry for the AFC Wimbledon guys for that. Again, proud of my club for donating 15 grand to support them for that. Absolutely fantastic. Also annoyed at some fans, especially on social media, who have been derogatory towards Wimbledon about that. Don't forget where we've come from. Don't forget that our players were in wheelie bin, were having rehydration pools in wheelie bins. Don't forget that our training ground, even at its current state, is not top 6. It's not top 8. Don't embarrass yourself when you go onto all the top 6 clubs. If you look at their training grounds, even Leicester's training ground is better than us. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass yourself by doing that. So just remember where our team is coming from. And I personally really didn't like some of the derogatory comments towards Wimbledon. We're Newcastle United. We're better than that. Anyway, AFC Wimbledon. I don't know too much about your club in terms of like individual players. However, before I go to the tactics balls, there is an overall. Where are you? Share this tab instead. So AFC Wimbledon, I did take something from the game that you had against Bradford, and also about how you guys generally play. It says on paper that 3-5-2, but if anyone listened, I take that. I take any kind of start information with a pinch of salt. I look at the average positions for your team, for the teams instead, to kind of help me. Let me get that up. And where are you? Average positions. Why can I not get it the way I want it to get it? Do I have to do it like this? How can I get it? That's Bradford. I want to see. I want to see AFC Wimbledon. AFC Wimbledon. AFC Wimbledon. That's your stats. That's your average positions. Oh, it's annoying. Okay, I can't get the average positions on here, but I actually put it on the tactical board. So first, what do you guys? So I was. This is my first team. Let me make sure I got. You guys can see it. I want to make it large for you. Yeah, you guys can see the screen. What will be you guys' first team? Obviously, we're thinking about injuries. We're thinking about it's a relatively quick turnaround. There's about 3-day turnaround, 3-4-day turnaround. I think. When do we play? Saturday. Okay, so now Sunday, Monday, Tuesday we play. So 48 hours, 72 hours ish at home, thankfully. That's the one thing I'm really happy for, that it's at home. Do you know what? Last minute, I don't think it's going to be, I think it's, so Osola up front, Harvey Barnes left, Miggy right. I'm fairly happy with that. But I'm caught in two minds. I don't know if it's going to be Joe Linton. I think Willock is definitely going to play, but I'm wondering if he puts, like he didn't against Nottingham Forest, he played Tonali, Willock, and Longstaff, I think. And he took off Tonali in the second half for Bruno. So what I'm wondering is, instead of Joe Linton, would it be Tonali? Would it be Tonali? What would you guys play? What would you be your starting lineup, guys? Let me know. I'm going to put Tonali, Willock, and Longstaff as it was in the previous one, with Miggy on the left, Osola and Barnes. I think he's going to want some continuity, some technicality in the midfield. Livramento at right back, Kraft right centre back. I think Dan Burn will remain and Kelly will be left back. But I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis Hall remains and plays as well. I wouldn't be surprised. And this is how I think the game will. This is me kind of taking the average positions from AFC or Wimbledon, and kind of how I think Newcastle will approach it. Again, so AFC Wimbledon actually, it says they got a 3-5-2 average position on paper. But what happens is, as you guys can see here in the middle, A. Smith and Joe Ball actually become they sort of become their pivots. They become their pivots with Nafal at 11 and T. Wiley as their wingers. So they're going to kind of stretching the play, but also their attacking players, Avil, Bugil, and Hippolyte. I think it's Hippolyte here. They congest the midfield and attacking area, and kind of give them that defensive protection, and how I talked about their defensive ability, but also allow them to be able to break, to be able to connect through their pivots, connect the defense to the attack as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to play through the middle quite a bit, but also trying to stretch the play as well. I don't know, and this is where my ignorance comes in. And I wish I was able to get an AFC Wimbledon fan on how good these players are. So especially on the wing, my expectation is whether would it be Bruno that starts or would it be Tonali? I've got Bruno here. I think it would be Tonali that starts, to be honest. I think it would be Tonali. My expectation is for Newcastle, and it's all respect, but we're playing a Wimbledon League 2. But with all due respect, I expect Newcastle to really push up on you guys. I expect Willock, with his pace, to be the connector to Usola and be the runners. And this is where I think Kelly, how I might be tempted to play Hall instead of Kelly, but fine. I expect Barnes to push up on Ogundir and really, really, really hurt them. Kelly, I expect our centre backs to gnarly. I expect them to be a lot more the League Two, especially away at St James's Park. I kind of expect this situation where even this actually, I think what would happen is it'll be Kelly, Byrne, and Kraft making up kind of in the defensive mode. Kelly, Byrne, and Kraft. Kelly being able obviously to pass the ball through the channels here. Livramento doing almost like Kieran Trippier role as he did against Man City, really pushing up against Nuffel, really pushing up against here, and being that out ball with Miggy here as well, using their pace, power, or Sola also running in through the channels, Tonali being able to find them, hopefully, Willock being that connector as well, and Barnes as well. I kind of expect that kind of situation happening where Newcastle are really pushing up front with Longstaff and Tonali being a sort of a staggered sort of pivot with Willock either kind of taking up these spaces here and connecting to Miggy, connecting to Barnes, connecting to Osola, Livramento stretching the play as well, and creating all sorts of spaces in the midfield for our runners, Osola, Barnes, Livramento, and others to get onto and really, really hurt AFC Wimbledon and putting them on the back foot. That is my main expectation from that game. My hope is that because we've got Everton, and I don't like looking ahead, but we've got games ahead. Obviously, Everton before the international break. We want to finish the game with a season before the international break really well. My hope is that you find Newcastle 2-3 goals up before half time, with all due respect to AFC Wimbledon. My expectation for Newcastle United, currently 7th in the Premier League, drawing 1-1 with Man City, that we take that momentum forward into this game and hopefully end it well. So my prediction, I can't remember what it was last time, and obviously also I didn't mention obviously with players that we've got on the bench. We'll have Bruno on the bench, Trippier on the bench, Joe Linton, Shaw, Lewis Hall, Gordon. Obviously, won't be Isak. Probably save Isak for the Everton game. My expectation is for Newcastle at St James's Park to have a clean sheet in this game and win the game 4-0. That's my prediction. I hope to get Osolo on the goals. Barnes really good in these type of games. Maybe even Tonali. I'll give Barnes I'll give Osolo a couple of goals. I expect Newcastle to win this game 4-0. 4-0 Newcastle United. That's my conclusion. That's my prediction for the game. But you guys tell me what you guys think. What's your expectation for this game? What do you guys who do you hope will play? What do you think will be the starting lineup? So we've come to the end of the show, folks, and we've talked about the Man City game. We've broke down the tactical aspects of it, the first half, the kind of, how Newcastle pressed, their intensity, how good they were on the ball, the ground duels, the tackling, the recoveries, Man City's ingenuity, the way they play, Gvardiol playing in that Stones role, going from left back to almost like a second striker. Obviously, he got that goal as well. How well Trippier and Jacob Murphy played on the other end, trying to push them back. Bruno Guimaraes and others, and then how we stepped it up in the second half. We increased our attempts in ground duels when we pushed even harder. And we became a lot more direct. We had less possession, but we were hitting even more accurate balls forward through Trippier, through Fabian Schär. And we had more of our technical players in more dangerous positions through the centre of the midfield in the attacking areas, with Fabian Schär, with Trippier, with Lewis Hall, with Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, Joe Linton, and kind of diagonal, staggered kind of formations through the middle, one touch, two touch, being very, very dangerous. And Gordon again showing his ability to the way he kind of drifts in and out and kind of showing his movement. It was absolutely excellent. And it was a penalty, well-deserved penalty as well, despite what the rivals say. It was an impressive display from Newcastle, both defensively and offensively. And now, obviously, we're going to the Wimbledon game, looking to carry on that form for our players. How we'll rotate, but like he said, he's going to be playing. I think there'll still be a spine of a team there that you would see. And he's looking to really compete and obviously onwards, hopefully onto Chelsea. But first things first is AFC Wimbledon. My prediction is that we beat AFC Wimbledon 4-0. I want to see Usolo get those goals. I want to see Barnes get those goals as well for Newcastle United. But let me know what you guys think. What was your thoughts? I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the tactical breakdown. Look out for the next show, I think, coming up this Wednesday as well. Do look out for that. And until next time, guys, have a great evening. Have a great night. And until next time, guys, take care and God bless, folks.
Brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Gvadiol.